welcome in. It is day 305, and you're speaking with the Meeples Champion. And today, we're going to be going over a game that I played it probably the year it came out. It was many years ago, over a decade ago. And it didn't hit necessarily big for me. But then, I got to retry it when we played a few times on Board Game Arena. The game is called Colt Express. Now, Colt Express is a very different game. In the game, you're going to get a bunch of pieces, you put them together, and you're making a 3D train. You're going to have tops and bottoms, and then different carriages. You're going to be randomly assigning certain treasures. Some of them you know what they are, some of them you don't, into different spots on the train. Now comes the part where you're going to be getting your meeple and putting them on the train. What are you doing, though? You have a bunch of different cards that are actions. I want to move forward. I want to move back. I want to go up. I want to go down. I want to shoot my gun. I want to shoot this way. I want to shoot that way. There's so many actions that you have. You're going to all start playing cards into a deck, face down. And you're going to be playing them from last action to first action. So you're going to be stacking these cards until however many cards are required for everybody who's playing are put out there. And then you're going to start to play. Now, the idea of this is simple. So you each have your stack of face-down cards. It gets to the first person's turn, and they're going to reveal their top card. This is their first action. My character is going to move forward a spot. Then the next person is going to reveal their card. My character is going to move down. The next person reveals, I'm going to shoot forward. And all of a sudden, there's a bunch of people in a car right in front of them, and they're going to be the target. Now, depending on how that works, the shot can cause somebody to bump back fall down. So there's going to be options here. What's interesting is you may have designed your deck with the intention of, well, I want to go forward, forward, down, forward, grab some treasure. That's the goal. That's what I'm after. But all of a sudden, you get shot. You bump an extra carriage down that you weren't expecting to go, and now you've ended up in a place you weren't expecting to be. And that's where the fun of this game comes in. So you're going to be running through these things. You're going to get points based on the things you collect, getting people pushed because you've shot them. It's a lot of mayhem that happens in this game. It's a game that is a bit on the luck factor because you're hoping you're not in the wrong place at the wrong time. You can kind of mitigate that and try to look at what people are planning, but to try to plan 6 moves ahead necessarily isn't easy. So it's a game that's a little bit luck, a little bit strategy, a little bit just take your shot and see what happens. That being said, why don't we jump in? Let's talk about our 7 categories and see where this game lands for us. When it comes to the art, I love the look of the box. It's a great, old-timey West train feel. It's a train motif of the Western times. And the inside of the box does the same thing, especially since you're literally setting up a train. I love that. I think it's such a unique way to make a game. Whether you love, hate, or something in the middle of this game, it doesn't matter. You can't help but appreciate the effort and the thought that went into making this game. It's a thumbs up on the art. Your components. The train's actually pretty solid. They do a good job on getting the cardboard to fit into itself. It pops out. You're not going to rip this easily or break it. Yes, if you're using this enough and you're constantly taking it apart and putting it together, I might recommend just keep it together because you don't need to be taking it apart and putting it together every day repetitively. That's going to put some strain on the pieces. But I think they do a good job there. You have some great wooden meeples. You have really good cards, and you've got some cardboard pieces for all of your different representatives of your different potential gold and treasures you're amassing. Everything's top-notch. Thumbs up. Your price. This game's somewhere in that $40, maybe $50 range. It makes sense because there is a good amount of stuff inside as far as pieces. It's a game that you'll find maybe in 2 out of 5 board game stores. I don't think I've ever seen this in a Target. I doubt you're going to find it in Barnes & Noble. You'll find it online. It's out there. It's available. But is it worth its price? I don't think it is. I think it's a game that has a great look. And if you're looking for a game that you can set it up and put it out there as like, I'd like to have a train going around this corner in my board game room. Go, grab it, because now it has a visual look to it, and you can still use it to play. But if you're just looking at it as a game alone, it has to be pretty cheap for me to consider it. I'd rather play the Board Game Arena version of this because I'm likely not playing this more than once or twice a year, so I don't want to spend that money on it. So for me, price-wise, thumbs down. Your difficulty. I think this is a little bit much for a kid. I think they're going to get frustrated because they're not going to understand why they can't do what they're trying to do. I think the beginner, they could try it, but they're also going to be, it's a little bit confusing for a beginner. It's not a classic, you're not coming out of a classic play style. You're playing a very different game here that isn't hard for a regular, experienced or expert gamer because they know all these different styles. But for somebody who hasn't played a lot of board games, it's not one of those entering style of board games. You're not simply saying it's money based like Monopoly, or it's roll and move based like, Sorry. It's not one of those. This is a game that is kind of jumping into the basics of higher level mechanics, and therefore I think beginners will have a little bit of an issue with. I think your experienced will love this game, and I think your experts, they could try it, they may like it, but I don't think this one's going to hold on for your experts. I think that the experience is where you're aiming for, and if you're aiming for only experience, you're losing all your kids, your experts, and you're losing your beginners. Experience just isn't enough for me. Difficulties, I think, just a little bit tight there. Thumbs down. Replayability. The game's replayable. It is. But to me, I feel like there's a little bit of setup and a little bit of pack up to this game. I feel like it can be a little bit draining when you think you're doing well and all of a sudden everything just goes completely sideways on you. This is one of those games that it can happen fast. I just feel like the replayability here is that you're going to get more frustrated and not want to play. I like the game occasionally, but I can't play this more than maybe more than once every 3 months, realistically. I'm like a once a year guy on this. And I'm not going to choose it. It has to be chosen, and I'll just be like, all right, fine, I'll play. It's not a bad game. It's just the replayability I don't feel is there. Thumbs down. Keys to victory. The key is trying to understand what your opponents want to do and being able to really predict it to the point that you can figure out how to get around it. Because your opponents may want to all go for a specific treasure, and you go, well, that makes sense. I want that too. However, since they're going to go for it, somebody's going to shoot a gun at some point. Somebody's going to end up a spot further than they should. Somebody's going to end up falling below at some point. Things are going to happen, and suddenly, even if I do predict the first 2 moves right, and I manage to get out of their way and I'm getting around, doesn't mean I won't end up in accidental line of fire, because now another player who was expecting to still be up top, who's suddenly below, is firing backwards thinking they're going to get rid of somebody, and I'm in the path. So for me, there are keys here, but they're very slim. It's more of a game about there's some keys to victory, but there's a lot of luck, and you just have to be able to kind of laugh and go with it. And that's where I see this. So for me, thumbs down. Unique. This is extremely unique. Now, maybe there's a game that's extremely like it, and it's just the fact there's the 3D train that makes me feel this is unique. But the setup of this game, to me, feels like something I haven't seen before, and it's the reason I'm willing to give it a chance. I don't think this game has a lot of replayability. I don't want it in my collection. I wouldn't choose to play it. But if somebody asked me to play it, I don't mind, because it feels like it's so different than anything I've played before. And when you get that aspect in a game, it makes it bump up a whole level. It gives it a shot to get to your table. And that's why this unique factor is so important to me. So for me, this game is unique. Thumbs up. Overall, what do I think? I think you should get a BGA account, Board Game Arena, jump on, and try the game. That's the best place to try it. And if you like it, awesome. Maybe you want to add it to your collection. But don't jump right away at that. Don't be afraid to wait and get to a convention or a board game store that has it there that can play for free. Try the game in person. See if friends like it. Make sure you're not putting a game like this into your collection that's just going to waste space and cost you money. I don't think it takes up a lot of space. It's just not a huge box. It's a good size, but it's a reasonable box size. But it's still space on your shelf. And it's not a lot of money. But that could have been used on a couple small games you love, or been part of the money towards a big game you've been saving for. So don't rush into buying this game just because it's unique. Make sure it's the game for you. Well, it has been day 305. We've been speaking about the game Colt Express. And you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description where I'll be adding an Amazon link in case you want to get this game for your collection. And don't be afraid to jump online on Board Game Arena. See if you can find me under the Meeples Champion. Send me a friend request, send me a gameplay request. I get on a few times a day, happy to play. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.